Thanks a lot. We're going to talk about newsjacking now, which is, it's my favorite form of content marketing. Newsjacking is the art and science of injecting your ideas into a breaking news story in order to generate media attention, sales leads, and to grow business. And I'm going to illustrate by showing a bunch of interesting examples, some B2B, some B2C. The first one actually is a B2B example, and it's TIO Business Insurance. So TIO Business Insurance, they're out of Australia, and they learned that President Obama was going to be visiting Australia. So what they did was, at the precise moment that President Obama his foot reached the tarmac of Australian soil, bang, they sent a media release offering President Obama free crocodile attack insurance. So if President Obama is eaten by a crocodile, Michelle Obama gets $50,000. Now this is cool because the media in Australia are all planning on covering Obama, and at the precise moment he lands in the country, this media alert goes out. And all the members of the media are like, oh my gosh, how can I differentiate my story? President Obama's visiting Australia, yada, yada, yada. He's going to visit the Prime Minister, yada, yada, yada. Oh, wow, we can talk about how if he's eaten by a crocodile, he's covered. So tons of media outlets wrote about this. The Herald Sun's headline, Barack Obama insured against crocodile attack in the Northern Territory. This is a television news station. Northern Territory insured Obama against croc attack. Time magazine, crikey, Obama gets crocodile insurance for Australia trip for the president who has everything, crocodile attack insurance. My favorite headline, Obama calls crocodile attack insurance the most unique gift I've ever received as president. And this is cool because all of a sudden, for zero cost, well, maybe a few dollars to put the media release onto the wire, they generated 4,969 mainstream media stories. Now, I used to be in public relations for B2B companies, and I would think to myself, gosh, how long would it take me to generate 4,969 mainstream media stories? And I'm counting. About a decade would be how long it would take me. And they do it just by creating this one media alert. So this is the idea of creating a piece of content at precisely the right moment. Exactly the right moment. Now, I'm popping up this orange slide, which you saw if you were at my keynote. You saw at my keynote a bunch of times. And I love to pop up this slide because some of the examples you're going to see in this presentation are people who learned newsjacking as the result of being in a room like this one and hearing me speak, or as a result of going to my website, newsjacking.com, and downloading a piece of content from newsjacking.com. And then they shared with me, oh my God, David, check out what we did. And that's the case of my next example of newsjacking, and it comes from Trent Silver. Now, here's the idea of newsjacking, is how every news story breaks in a very predictable pattern. And if you understand that predictable pattern, then you have an opportunity to reach people right away. The life of a news story. By the way, this graphic is also available at newsjacking.com. So Trent Silver uses these ideas a lot. He is a 22-year-old entrepreneur, and he runs a business called Cash for Purses. And Cash for Purses buys used handbags from people online, fixes them up, and then sells them either through eBay or through online or through boutique stores, physical stores. His biggest problem is getting more purses to sell. So he learned that Lindsay Lohan was having money trouble. So what he did was he created a blog post where he offered to buy Lindsay Lohan's used handbags from her, at the precise moment that the media was talking about how Lindsay Lohan was having money troubles. And you can see his report right here. There she is with a handbag. Hey, your money troubles is solved, Lindsay. So the media loved this. Here's Radar Online. We'll buy your purses, Lindsay. Company offers big money for cash-strapped Lohan's leftovers, with a link to cash for purses. The Huffington Post, Lindsay Lohan offered money for used handbags by fundraising company with a link to Cash for Purses website. Bazinga, Cash for Purses upgrades Lindsay Lohan offer, also with a link. My favorite headline, Lindsay Lohan's purses may be the key to her financial freedom. Also with a link to Cash for Purses website. When I spoke with Trent about this, he's like, David, that was the coolest idea. I love newsjacking. I'm so into it. It cost him $0 to do this. He had 8,000 online inquiries from this one newsjack, the Lindsay Lohan newsjack, and he generated a 19% conversion rate, $250,000 in new business as a result of it, 22-year-old entrepreneur. I pop this slide up all the time because there's no question in my mind you can achieve a similar result because I've seen it so many times. Someone would be in the room like this. And I want you to let me know, 2 months from now, 6 months from now when you have a success, please let me know. It's about real-time content. It's about harnessing serendipity. Serendipity means essentially a happy accident. So it's a happy accident when there's a news story that has something that you have an expertise around that you can comment on. And if you harness that serendipity, you have an opportunity to generate tons of interest in your product or service or company or your ideas or your expertise. Now, what I recommend that people do is monitor Google News on a regular basis with no personalization at all, just general Google News. That's what I do, both on my computer and also on my mobile phone. I read a daily newspaper. I read a weekly news magazine in print. I also pay attention to Twitter Moments. It's a new feature on Twitter. If you haven't seen it before and you're on Twitter, you just go to your Twitter, you'll see a thing that says Moments. This is curated by Twitter. What are the most important stories going on right now? And then look for one that has something to do with your area of expertise. How many are familiar with the Oreo tweet? I hate this tweet. Pisses me off. You want to know why? Because this silly Oreo tweet, yeah, power out, no problem, I get it. Fine, you got a bunch of people talking about it. The reason I don't like it is because the vast majority of marketers on the planet believe that the idea of newsjacking only refers to some kind of story that you know is coming. But the truth is, the best newsjacking opportunities I've seen are the serendipity-based ones, the happy accidents you never saw coming. So I don't like the Oreo tweet because I think it makes people only, oh my God, it's the Academy Awards, we have to pay attention. It's the Grammys, we have to pay attention. It's the Super Bowl, we have to pay attention. That's when you don't want to be focused on newsjacking. You want to be focused the other 364 days out of the year. It might happen on a weekend. It might happen on a holiday. It might happen when the boss is gone. And the reason is because newsrooms have changed. The CNN newsroom this picture is of, they're looking for news. They're looking for people to quote. People are looking to find out more information about a breaking news story. And this is like, oh my gosh, it's like getting free attention. You get media attention with little effort. You generate sales leads and add new customers for free. You grow your business faster than ever. And besides that, I wouldn't discount this. Newsjacking can be fun. Oh my gosh, sure beats making a brochure or something like that, doesn't it? Newsjacking. So here's another fun idea. Paris Hilton was arrested in Las Vegas for cocaine possession. Wow, that's interesting. But what was more interesting was the Wynn hotels, immediately after this news broke, banned her from the Wynn hotels. Wow, now it's interesting, right? Paris Hilton is arrested for cocaine possession. Everybody has that story. The second paragraph of that story all of a sudden becomes the Wynn Hotel has banned her. And everybody started talking about this. The Las Vegas Sun, CBS News, just a couple examples here. Paris Hilton banned from Wynn Las Vegas resorts after arrest. This generates tons of interest at no cost. 5,286 mainstream media stories about Paris Hilton being arrested for cocaine possession. Again, you can achieve a similar result. Now, I know that many of you in the audience are from B2B companies, and the examples, several of the examples I've shown have been B2C, but there is no doubt that a B2B company can do the same thing. So think about in your business, for example, is there a regulatory change that's about to come up? Be the first person out of the gate commenting on that regulatory change. That's exactly what happened with Amdocs. Amdocs is a software company that makes massive enterprise software that manages mobile phone billing. I mean, imagine the system that manages AT&T or Verizon billing. That's the software that Amdocs makes. I mean, talk about a B2B play. I mean, that's as massive a piece of software as you can imagine that's managing tens of millions of people's mobile phone bills. Now, there was an issue that popped up where people were worried about bill shock. Bill shock is when you get your mobile phone bill and you open it up and, oh my God, it's huge because you traveled abroad and you didn't do the right thing in order to get a package and you got hit with roaming charges. And people were getting bills for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So what Amdocs, when the FCC, the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, was meeting about bill shock, at that moment, Amdocs sent out a blog post, "No need to be bill shocked," encouraging the industry to self-police this idea of bill shock and alert customers when they were running up a big bill. And in fact, that then generated lots of attention from the media that follows Amdocs, for example, from Connected Planet, talking about what Amdocs did on their blog post. So yeah, even B2B companies can take advantage of this idea of newsjacking. It's the idea of getting your ideas into the marketplace at the precise moment that people are interested in it. And it not only generates news stories as a result, but it also can drive sales leads and it can grow your business as a result. That's exactly what Mitch Jackson does. Mitch Jackson is a lawyer. He's a lawyer in Southern California. And he is a master at newsjacking, absolutely fantastic at newsjacking. He's always looking for stories that have a legal component where he can take advantage of what's going on and push an idea out there, typically on his blog, but he also pushes it out on Periscope. He'll do a quick Periscope saying, oh my gosh, this story just broke. Bill Cosby is about to go into court. Here's what you should know about it. Then the media talk about what he's just said, and then that generates search results and it drives people into his business. Here are some of the blog posts that Mitch Jackson has written over the last couple of months. Michael Sam is gay and the NFL team that drafts him will face major litigation exposure. Who is responsible for the death of Philip Seymour Hoffman? What will happen next in the Amanda Knox murder case? Justin Bieber shows you the wrong way to give a deposition. Oh my gosh, that's the second time I mentioned Justin Bieber this morning. How about that? How this California law firm handles bullying and student sexting cases. Now, this was a very important one, Mitch told me, because there was a point about, I think it was about a year ago, that sexting and bullying became a huge issue because a student tragically died as a result because she committed suicide. She was being bullied so much. So Mitch put out this information about what's going on with this issue. And then this drives people to talk about Mitch driving his search engine results, which then when I asked him about it, Mitch said, yeah, you know what? We've generated several clients that have retained us for whom we have generated multi-million-dollar settlements. And as a result, if you know the math about how lawyers are paid, Mitch Jackson has just told us that he's made over $1 million by newsjacking. $1 million by newsjacking. You can achieve a similar result. You can drive business into your brand. But you do need to be careful. Now, Mitch Jackson was talking about some stories that have negative connotations, but he had a direct tie to that story. He was a lawyer talking about the legal issues of some stories, even though some of those stories have negative connotations. You need to be very careful out there. Here are some things you need to do to be careful. The first thing, be dignified and statesmanlike. The second thing, Be upbeat and positive, but never mean or vindictive. Don't use newsjacking as a way to diss your competitors, for example. Don't get too cute or clever. Now, you can do that with some of these celebrity stories that I've talked about, but especially if you're B2B, you need to think, okay, how far can I go? And maybe draw the line at not getting too cute or clever. And the most important one is when you do create a piece of content in real time to get your idea into a breaking news story, you need to add value and don't sell, which is where a lot of companies fall into trouble when they're doing newsjacking, is they try to sell a product on the back of newsjacking. Newsjacking is very dangerous with any story that has a negative connotation unless you have a direct tie to that story. So for example, AT&T tweeted out this picture of a mobile phone with the World Trade Center location in the background, and it says "Never Forget." And people on social media were like, what is up with that? So social media said, don't do that, that's ridiculous, and then mainstream media also picked up on it. AT&T slammed on Twitter and Facebook for September 11 marketing move. AT&T's 9/11 tweet violated thick line between relevance and respect. So don't try to pimp your own product around a negative story. It's a big problem. Now, they apologized, but it was too little too late. Avoid negative or controversial stories unless you have a very direct tie to that story. So Hurricane Sandy coming up the U.S. East Coast a couple of years ago. It was a terrible hurricane. There was death, there was destruction. Over 100 people lost their lives. There was billions of dollars worth of property damage. People were unable to go to their homes, tens of thousands of people. Power outages for millions. And that is not the right time for InStyle magazine to write a Hurricane Sandy, have you stuck inside? 5 beauty treatments to help ride out the storm. This would be a fail. This is not a good time for How About We, an online dating site, to put out 18 of our favorite Hurricane Sandy date ideas about How About We members. This would also be a fail. This is not the right time for American Apparel to run a Hurricane Sandy sale with 20% off for anybody who lives in the path of the hurricane. This would also be a big fail. This one actually, American Apparel, became so much of a fail that it made mainstream media, and people were talking about it on television news and magazines and newspapers and so on. It was a mega fail. And I note something interesting. American Apparel filed for bankruptcy soon after. Now, I'm not suggesting it's because they don't know how to newsjack, but I would suggest, yep, that is a major fail when you go bankrupt. So, newsjacking requires a legitimate tie to the story that you're trying to take advantage of. So, that same Hurricane Sandy story, the exact same story, Duracell, the battery company, also newsjacked Hurricane Sandy, but they had a direct tie to what they did. They actually had this truck, which is a mobile charging station, go from place to place where people were without power and provided free charges for your mobile phones, your computers, and free batteries for your devices. And this was seen as a really big win because people said, yeah, that's valuable. Duracell, they're a battery company, they're a power company, they're directly related to power, and they were providing free power for people who were affected. Tons of benefit from doing this. I see 1.8 million likes about this update that they were doing. Newsjacking. Remember this life of the news story. If you're able to generate attention at the precise moment that people are looking, you can achieve these sorts of results that these other companies were achieving. But it requires a new way of thinking. Let me share with you my favorite example, my favorite B2B example. It comes from Eloqua. Some of you might know Eloqua, marketing automation software company. And I call this, I'm going to give you my punchline ahead of time. This is the $16 million newsjacking B2B triumph. So what Eloqua noticed, Joe Payne is the CEO of Eloqua, was told that one of his competitors, a company called Market to Lead, had just been acquired by Oracle. So what Joe did was he immediately went on to Google, typed in Oracle and Market to Lead to see if what somebody told him was indeed true. And yes, he was able to find the actual announcement on the Oracle website that they indeed had just announced that they bought Joe's biggest competitor, a company called Market to Lead. And it was this 3-sentence announcement on the Oracle website. Now, I would suggest that when a company does only 3 sentences that basically say, we have acquired this company and we are not going to tell you any details about it, that's a perfect opportunity to newsjack. Because media, analysts, employees, customers, potential customers, everybody wants to know what this acquisition means, and the company that's doing the acquiring doesn't want to say anything. So what Joe did was he wrote a statesman's-like blog post in real time, put it on the Eloqua website. Now remember, Joe is the CEO of the competitor to the company that Oracle acquired. He titled the blog post, "Oracle Joins the Party," and he talked about what this acquisition means to the marketing automation software business. He provided quotable quotes in the blog post that he wrote. And then, because Google indexes in real time, reporters and analysts and customers and potential customers and employees, anybody who entered Oracle and Market to Lead into a search engine saw 2 things after this post came out. The original Oracle announcement that basically says nothing, and then they found Joe Payne's blog post, the CEO of the competitor, where he has all sorts of valuable information. All sorts of interesting information. It was posted within 2 hours of the original announcement, and it was out there and making things happen. So here's the Bloomberg Business Week story about Oracle buying Market to Lead. And there's the quote from Joe Payne sitting in that report. Here's Customer Think, a blog about the industry, and there's a quote in the very first paragraph from Joe Payne about what this means. Here's PC World's report about this acquisition. Here's InfoWorld's report about this acquisition. Now remember, Joe didn't have to pitch the media. The media found the reports because they had to find people to quote, and they had nothing from Oracle and tons of stuff from the CEO of the competitor. Then the content team kicked in. They sent through email and social networks a link to that blog post. Number one, through the database that they had to anybody who is an existing or potential customer of Market to Lead. Then to some of their media and analyst contacts. And then through Twitter and LinkedIn and other social networks. So this went out as an email linking back to the original blog post. And by sending it out to those people, they generated $1 million worth of new business from one blog post. $1 million worth of new business from one blog post. Because people said, well, shoot, my company was acquired. Maybe I need to think about changing, or I'm in the sales process. Maybe I don't want to go with the company that was just acquired by Oracle. I should consider these guys at Eloqua. Then something really interesting happened. Within a couple of months, Oracle also bought Eloqua. That's pretty interesting, right? I guess if you can't beat them, you buy them, right? Now, I did the analysis. This was an $810 million deal for Eloqua. I did the analysis. The extra $1 million worth of revenue generated from that one newsjacking opportunity that happened a couple of months before the acquisition, I calculated was worth $15 million on the purchase price based on the revenue that was acquired in this deal. So this cost Eloqua $0. It's a blog post, cost you nothing. They generated $1 million worth of new revenue, and they had a $15 million extra bump on the valuation. So this is my $16 million B2B newsjacking triumph. There's no question in my mind that everybody here could achieve a similar result. Why do I say that? Because Joe Payne was in a room just like this one, heard me talking about newsjacking, said, that's really cool, I want to do that, kept his eyes and ears open, and when the opportunity presented itself, he is out with a blog post within 2 hours. If he had waited till the next morning, it wouldn't have worked. If he had waited for his PR agency to get off their butts, it wouldn't have worked. If he had waited for the content marketing team to come up with something, I don't know. If they were prepared, it might have worked, but Joe said, I'm doing this, I'm pushing it out, I'm making it happen. You can achieve a similar result. If you want more information about newsjacking, please go to newsjacking.com. I've got the graphics I showed. I've got some examples. There's a video there. There's some infographics. Thanks very much. I'm David Meerman Scott. Don't make the excuses. Please let me know if you have any great examples of newsjacking. Thanks a lot. Thank you.